In this video, we're going to focus on the question how to understand the Bible. People ask many questions about the Bible. Questions like, homosexuality. What does the Bible say about homosexuality? It's a huge issue nowadays in the church. Abortion. Uh, Doctrine questions like baptism. Do I baptize babies, or do I need to wait until they have a certain knowledge of the Bible? The other day someone told me, I don't really understand the Bible, the genealogies. It's a bit boring, and do I still need to read the Bible in the 21st century? So people ask a lot of questions in the Bible. Even there are passages in the Bible people don't always understand and find it difficult to explain. So the reality is there's a lot of questions about the Bible. We need to understand that we live in the 21st century, and between us and the people of the Bible, there are many differences, and these differences are the reason why we have so many questions about the Bible. I would like to give five differences between us and the people of the Bible. The one major difference is time. We live in a total different time than the people of the Bible. Second one is language differences. Old Testament was written in Hebrew and the New Testament in Greek. And language evolve over time. The Bible will use a certain word maybe that we use today as well, but the word has evolved into a different meaning. Just like the word gay we use nowadays. 30 years ago, the word gay had a total different meaning. It meant that it had the meaning of someone was happy and have a good time. But now it means something totally different. The other difference is tradition. Our tradition is totally different than the people of the Bible. The fourth one is situation. Just imagine those days of the Bible, no computers, no smartphones, no electricity, no telephones, no fax machines, no pavement, no restaurants, shopping malls, a total different world. The last one is history. Our history is totally different than the people of the Bible. And these differences are the reason why we ask so many questions about the Bible, because it was written in a totally different time and language, tradition, situation, and history. Now the question is, how can we overcome these differences? We can overcome this by going through three processes. The first process is the process of understanding. The second process is application. And then the third process is communication. Let's go to the first process of understanding. Just want to write it here, understanding. The purpose of this process is to get to the message to the original receiver. How did the original receiver understand that passage? So you will read a passage from the Bible. Suppose you read Exodus chapter 2. Then your first step is to go through a process of understanding to get to the message to the original receiver. Message to original receiver. How did the original receiver understand that passage? The second process is application. If you get to the message to the original receiver, then you need to apply it. Application. And the third step is communication. How do we communicate this message into the 21st century? Communication. But let's just focus on the first step, understanding. The process of understanding is actually very exciting, and it's easy to really get the gist of that. Understanding can be divided in 5 smaller steps, and it gives you the acronym of START, so it's easy to remember. START. The S stands for situation. If you read Exodus chapter 2 or chapter 1, then you realize if you go to the situation, the Israelites were in Egypt. They went through a very difficult time. They worked as slaves, long hours, and the Pharaoh gave them a hard time. So if you understand a little bit of the situation, it helps you to get a better understanding of the message. The second thing, and that's the T, you need to know and determine the type of literature. The Bible has many kinds of literature. You have prose, poetry. Those are the big major types of literature. You get prose and poetry. Prose can be subdivided in stories, procedure, explanation. You have parables in the Bible, symbolism. So there are many kinds of types of literature. In the central part of the Bible, you have poetry. The importance of that is, and that brings me to the third point, the type of literature will determine how you will analyze a passage, because you cannot read a poem like a story. And in the process of analysis, you read the passage, maybe you read for a second time, for a third time. You try to get the major theme of that passage by looking to certain words that will be repeated or words that will be related. And that tells you, maybe this is what the author wanted to convey. So in this process, you spend a lot of time in the process of analysis. You get or try to get as close to the message to the original receiver. And if you manage to get that, you need to do two other steps just to see if you are on the right track. The R is relate to the rest of the Bible. Does that message relate to the rest of the Bible? Suppose you read through a passage and the passage says, you need to forgive one another, and your understanding is, but not always in all circumstances. Then if you read the rest of the Bible, you will realize, but the Bible doesn't really support your understanding, because the rest of the Bible says we need to forgive in all circumstances, although it's not always easy. What you also can do is, and that's the T, you test your findings by reading Bible commentaries and study Bibles of other people. This is how you test your findings. Pause. So you go through these steps to determine the message to the original receiver. And then you take it to the next big step, the process of application. And you realize that because of the differences of time and language and tradition, you really cannot apply everything in always into the 21st century. Give you a few examples. If you read about the sacrifices in especially the book of Leviticus, you realize that we don't take animals to churches anymore, because that has been fulfilled in Jesus Christ. That is the ceremonial laws in the Bible, the sacrificial system. We don't observe that because it was fulfilled in Jesus Christ. So the ceremonial laws in the Bible we don't apply. Another passage will be Deuteronomy 22 verse 8. It says that we need to build a railing on the rooftop. In the times of the Bible, the rooftop was flat, and that was a place where people visited. And to visit in a safe environment so that people don't fall over, and they had a railing on the rooftop. And that was a requirement of that town or city. So that was a civil law. And you realize that our civil laws are different because we live in a total different society. You go to 1 Peter, and that's another example. 1 Peter 5 verse 14, it says, greet one another with a kiss of love. Now, it would be funny if you go tomorrow and you walk up to someone that you don't know too well and just kiss that person. The person asks you, but what's going on with you? And you say, no, the Bible says, I need to kiss you with a kiss of love. But that was a cultural thing. It was in their culture a way to show Christian love. We use other ways to do it. We shake hands, we can hug one another, we can give a high five. So you cannot just use the cultural things and apply it exactly in the same way as it was in the times of the Bible into the 21st century. So these three things, and it all starts with a C, I call incidentals. Incidentals, meaning that we don't need to apply that into our time. Another word that people will use for incidentals will be the word relative, or something that's temporary. But I like the word incidental. Other parts of the Bible requires us to forgive one another, to love, to worship only God. You know, the Ten Commandments, passages about seeking justice for everyone in this world. You get a feeling that those things we need to apply in the 21st century, because those things are all moral laws. They are the morals. Because morals help us to better love God and to better love human beings, and to make this world really the place where people can experience God's presence. So all those things we apply into the 21st century. And I call the morals of the Bible the essentials. Essentials. So you will see the essentials we communicate into the 21st century, but the incidentals um, we don't apply into the 21st century. Then it brings us to our third step. How do we communicate this message, this essential? There are many ways we can do that, and many times your target group will help you how to communicate the message. If you go to a youth conference, you will probably use music to convey a message. There can be drama to convey a message. Sunday, people go to church and they listen to a sermon. During the week, people maybe tweet something or post something on Facebook about maybe an essential of the Bible. People can use art. There are so many ways you see how we can communicate the Bible. And I think the best way, and maybe it's not the easiest way, is our life need to convey the essentials of the Bible. It needs to become part of our life, our character. So you see in this video that people have many questions about the Bible because of all these differences of time, language, tradition, situation, and history. And we overcome that with the process of understanding to get to the message to the original receiver, and then through the process of application where we determine the difference between the incidentals and the essentials, and then we use the creativity to communicate it into the 21st century. In the other videos we will focus on more detail on each step, and we will use a Bible passage to explain each step so that you can acquire the skill to apply the essentials of the Bible into the 21st century.